Hello you guys and happy Friday. It's more of a week in review vlog today just because we haven't talked much earlier this week. I hope you've been doing well. It was a great week here, a very busy week. I want to show you a couple things that have happened around the room. First up, I have officially switched my rows into groups of 6 desks. It is amazing how much more open it is now because we have the desks put together. So I have 36 desks in these 6 pods of 6. I'll have to fix that one. I also have a couple charging stations along the side, or if I have to separate a student. I also started having students submit things for our growth board. With that board, we're specifically looking at ways that students are growing and how they might have failed or struggled with something and how they overcame it. So it was really cool to share. I first shared 3 ways that I had failed during the month of September, and then the students also shared those situations. And especially in my first 2 classes, we had quite a few people participate. And I think it's one of those things that the more people participate, the more comfortable everyone feels with it. Failure and struggling with things is so taboo to talk about in culture, but honestly, that is a really powerful thing. If someone's willing to admit or share their struggle and how they overcame it, then that takes away some of the power of that fear and it makes you stronger. It helps you be vulnerable. So I think that this is something that will hopefully be a positive thing. I also give some extra credit for students who share, so I think some of them were motivated from that, but people did a great job sharing that kind of information. So I thought it was great and I am looking forward to keep it up, and I will maybe as we get into more of the fall months even get some different color leaves so then it's more so like fall themed. I'm not sure, maybe I will make it kind of like a seasonal thing. Another classroom update, I know previously I had shown you guys that I had created my early finishers board. So right here, and there's 27 different activities that students can do. I actually added numbers to all the baskets, and then they can take a look over here in this particular crate. I've got worksheets made for all of them. I'll link the worksheets themselves as well as the video where I talked about this more in depth. In terms of what we've been working on, this week for social studies, we finished up our Civil War and Reconstruction stuff. So we did some review, took a quiz on it, and then we started with the Western expansion unit. With this in mind, I have 3 main parts. The first part is a QFT, question formulation technique. It helps promote inquiry skills. I'm sure I'll do a separate video all about that and kind of what it's like later on, so you could do it in your classroom if you wanted. We also then had students complete a writing sample today for their like pre-test essentially with writing. One of my official like student growth metrics is the students writing because we really focus a lot on it, and our students had some lower test scores on their writing skills from the past, so it's also something that our school is really concerned about too, wanting to make sure students are really good with informative texts, analyzing them, synthesizing them. That's kind of what we're focused on. I had them do their pre-test essentially, and we're going to work on those later on. And then I also have a game-based simulation coming up next week. This was so much fun last year. Now, I spent so many hours putting it together last year, but now I get to just enjoy that I already made it. I also will link it below if you're curious, if you're also teaching Western expansion, especially like the 8th grade version, because it's Homestead Act, miners, ranchers, like different groups of people, Native Americans as well. So I'll link that below, but I'm super excited for that. That will probably take about 6 or 7 days of class just because we have half-hour classes for social studies. And for Spanish students, we're working more on their conjugations of different verbs. We're still kind of finishing up that review of different concepts they would have learned in last year's Spanish, or crash course for those who did not learn Spanish last year. So it's been a very good week with that. It was also my birthday this week. It was my birthday yesterday, so that was fun. The kids were very sweet. They wrote me some nice cards, and all the classes sang to me, which it's very nice of them. I always feel super awkward when anyone's singing happy birthday to you because you just stand there and, but anyway, it was very nice of them. And today, yeah, we're already through the day on Friday basically. I've got a busy planning time though. I've got quite a few things on the to-do list. Some things I just want to copy for next week to get that ready to go. Our new copiers are amazing. They feel super high tech. And I haven't had any paper jams yet, knock on wood, just to make sure that doesn't happen. I'm also going to be sharing some information with the principal. Yesterday was our first district leadership team meeting. I am one of our school's representatives for the social studies committee. Basically, they try to have 1 or 2 representatives who teach social studies from all the schools in the district. There's 5 schools in the district. So I was one of our 2 Simmons representatives in terms of like classroom teachers. our administration actually is also on it. So it was me hanging out with another teacher from my school, all 3 of my administrators, and then some representatives from the elementary schools in the district. But the idea is figuring out ways that we can better implement the social studies standards, other things like that. So it was a really positive meeting. I love social studies and kind of nerd out on it. Obviously the channel is Mr. and Mrs. Social Studies because both my husband and I teach social studies, but it's super exciting to be part of it. As soon as I learned about it last year, I was like, oh, I wanted to be on that. But of course it was my first year in the district last year, so they're not gonna hire someone brand new to be on the committee. So it's pretty relaxed. We do 1 meeting per month, but I am looking forward to really doing a lot more with that this year. So I'm gonna do some stuff with that. I have to sign the October birthday cards for my students. We have our birthday committee help get birthday cards going for all the students who have birthdays that month. And then after they've passed them around, had kids sign them, then I double check to make sure everything was positive that was written, and then I sign the card as well. So it's a really fun thing to do. I highly recommend it, especially if you're an elementary teacher. Probably you're already doing something for the kids' birthdays because there's not that many students. I know at the middle school level it's tough. You don't really do a whole lot just because that would be expensive. You know, I've got 117 kids, Jake's got 150. Like, it's tough to really spend too much money on it. But doing the cards is really nice. At Walmart, they sold the birthday cards in packs of 12 for $1.88. For less than $20, I've got birthday cards for everyone. So that's pretty cool. And then if I've got any time left in class, I'm gonna try to work on student seating charts for next time. To be honest, seating charts are never my favorite thing. I've got 3 to put together because my 3rd hour, they've been really positive and haven't had issues that need a seating chart. They're not too chatty, so I've just been letting them keep choosing where they want to sit. We'll see. With the group setup compared to the rows, that might encourage a little bit more socializing when we shouldn't be socializing, so I will have to play that by ear. Then lastly, in addition to that kind of stuff that I've mentioned, I kind of want to talk about a previous video I did. I don't know if you ended up watching it. It was kind of a long video, but Jake and I had reacted to, there was a spoken word poem, if you will. I mean, I don't know if it was really a poem, but the spoken word piece done by Prince EA about school, like the point of school. And I did expect it to do better than other videos on this channel, but it's been a while since we've had a video like reach over 1,000 on this channel, and it's hundreds of people are watching every day, so it keeps becoming more popular. But it's very interesting because a couple things happened. First of all, I really enjoyed reacting to that in terms of it was a bit tough to hear certain spots. There were some pretty intense criticisms of teachers, which Jake and I didn't feel like were exactly fair, but there were also some really good points made. So really a healthy option to listen to it and think about it a bit. And I think that hopefully we were able to add value and help kind of provide some context, at least from what we see in our schools from that video. But what's been interesting is that the simple act of watching that video has already shifted my approach a little bit. Thinking about some of the complaints about school that's being made in the video, and then trying to make sure that I am not feeding into some of those as much. So with that in mind, I mean, I think there's definitely a lot of parts, if you watch the video, where as a teacher, I do a better job than maybe some. But there's also still things where it's not perfect, you know, trying to make sure everything we're doing aligns to a practical skill for the students. I mean, I'm super anti-busy work. I'm not that kind of a teacher who gives that kind of stuff. I want everything to have a purpose, and of course you have certain standards that you're trying to follow. But it definitely, I've been thinking about it more after watching something like that, even though there's definitely some parts that aren't necessarily true and aren't, some of the things that are blamed on teachers aren't a teacher's decision at all. There's also some good points made that are kind of in my control. And so even though I didn't really expect it, and even though the video, the original video made me a little bit frustrated in certain spots, it's actually helping me also contextualize like what I'm doing in the big picture. And so it's been helpful. And I was even thinking a little bit about it at our recent district leadership team meeting. A lot of the elementary teachers have some interesting approaches on social studies. Some people wanted to get rid of social studies altogether in their curriculum, and we're trying to figure out ways that they could do that. And then a couple of the other teachers were struggling with some of our new standards and not wanting to let go of the focus on the facts and the dates. They were really kind of stuck to that information, and didn't want to switch it more to the skills focus like our standards are set up as. And I think it was just interesting, again, to hear those different perspectives. I know from my perspective, I love our new standards because it's so much more skill-based. It's not about the facts. And the real talk is, sure, it's important to have the context, but with history, you can jump in at any point and learn about whatever you need to. Yeah, it helps to have context and helps to go chronologically perhaps, but you don't have to have that prior knowledge on it, and you can look up things very easily. So I think that it's very healthy for us to get away from that focus on the facts only and apply it with the skills. That's where with my curriculum, I try to always balance. Let's do some facts, we do a little bit of lecture, like once per chapter or unit, but that's why I'm always trying to do different other skills involved. So like I said, for this unit, we've got the QFT, which is for inquiry. It's coming up with questions. We've got the writing sample, and then we're gonna do the game-based simulation. That's different than last unit where the students were comparing data. The students did a choice project related to either writing a script or doing illustrated notes, like a lot of different options there. And then we did a whole class discussion. So we're always doing different types of skills and things that engage different types of learners. And I think that's so important, fusing the facts with the skill. And honestly, I don't care that much about the facts. I'm never gonna put a question related to dates on my tests or quizzes. Like, that's just not me. And honestly, I don't even do tests and quizzes some units too, just because we're doing a project instead. Those are kind of some thoughts I had about that. But I'm gonna get to some of those tasks today since my planning time is coming up, and I'll check in with you a little bit later.